On today's show, Jaylon Tyson steals the night at Summer League. We talk about his game and how he has grown since being drafted by the Cavaliers.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Cavs your first listen every day. You can find the show wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple, anywhere else you listen. Be sure to give us a 5-star review. Help us grow the show. The other way you can help grow the show, check us out on YouTube. Search Locked On Cavs. If you're watching the video, click that thumbs up button. Hit the notification bell. Make sure you are subscribed to the Locked On Cavs YouTube channel. You don't want to miss all the content that we've got coming each and every day. Proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's show brought to you by FanDuel. The playoffs are over in both the NBA and the NHL, but that doesn't mean sports aren't still going on. Baseball about to start back up this weekend, and FanDuel's hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. I'm Danny Cunningham. You might know me from my time covering the Cleveland Cavaliers at places like 92.3 The Fan, Cleveland Magazine, and a couple of other ones along the way. Joined today by Spencer Davies of Cavs Insider and Hoop Industry. We're in Vegas. We are in a closet, a media room. We're in just some sort of room underneath the playing surface after the Cavs lost to the Los Angeles Lakers in their 4th of 5 Summer League games. And Spencer, the story of tonight was unquestionably Jaylon Tyson. Flirted with a triple-double, finished with 21 points, 11 rebounds, 9 assists, did everything really, really well and almost leading the Cavs to a victory. I came away from tonight more impressed with him than I had been at any other point since he's been drafted by the Cavs, and I don't know that this is, piece for piece a blueprint of what he looks like in the NBA, but after watching what he was able to do tonight, really what he's done in the last 3 Summer League games, I'm pretty confident he's going to be a good NBA player.
Yeah, I think so too. And the thing that's really sticking out with me is just the heart he plays with, the passion he plays with, and again, just he gets on the ground for these balls. And I'm telling you, that was even before he started scoring and putting together that near triple-double effort. It was just, you can just see the kind of effort that he puts into these games, and that obviously accompanied with the vision, the headiness, and it's just the overall IQ, I think, is what the word to describe what he's able to do. And he's just been all over the place. That's the best way I can put it. And his teammates are benefiting from it. You saw earlier how Luke Travers had a couple backdoor cuts. He found him on a couple spray outs from Jaylon Tyson on the outside as well for some of his teammates. And just, again, getting down and dirty and grabbing rebounds against guys that, are bigger than him even too.
Right, and I think the best way I can describe what you're talking about with his game is he's got an above-average feel for the game. I don't know how many actual basketball things that he's going to be above average at in the NBA, but I am starting to be pretty confident there aren't going to be many, if any, things, Spencer, that he's below average at in terms of NBA skills. Like, I think that he is somebody that he might turn out to be just a very average, like the absolute average NBA player. And with the 20th pick overall, that I think is a really big win. The thing that I think could determine whether or not he's I think right now, the most likely outcome for him, and I say this after watching him play 4 times, so maybe this is a little hot takey, and we will learn so much more when October gets here. I think he's going to be a good NBA player. And I think the thing that is going to determine whether or not he's a good NBA player or a really good NBA player is how that shot looks from the outside. He made a couple of threes tonight. He was 6 of 9 shooting. He got to the free throw line in this game against the Lakers, which I think was really important and really good to see. You mentioned the rebounding. Like, he did everything really, really well tonight. I'm struggling to think, and my knowledge of Cavs Summer League is not, I don't have an encyclopedia in my brain of Cavs Summer League performances, but this is one of the ones that I've been most impressed with in my time watching the team. Just what he was able to do, because so often in Summer League, it's about guys that are high volume shooters and they can put together a great night. Jaylon Tyson wasn't that. Like, I could see this type of game being replicated for him in a regular season NBA game, and you can't always say that about good summer league performances.
And that's when you come to the efficiency too from the scoring. You just mentioned it. He got to the stripe and he was able to knock down his threes, puts it on the floor. And what I like about him is he's patient. He's patient. He's not kind of out of control like a lot of some of these young guys are at summer league when they're turning the ball over like crazy and all that. He had some turnovers in the first couple of games of summer league, but
Right.
But I think that he's learning the pace a little bit more, and he's kind of adjusted to it. And I'm sure you'll get to your point that you brought up yesterday about him being the point guard. And tonight we didn't see Craig Porter Jr. He was out, didn't play. So what happened? Jaylon Tyson gets the call at the 1, and he delivers a performance like great one.
Yeah, and I think that a number of different things go into his performance being as good as it was tonight. One, and I think you have to mention this first, is this is where, at least to me, and this is something I asked him about after the game too, this is the spot he's still the most comfortable, because this is sort of the role he played in while he was at Cal last year in college. So it's easier for him to make the transition there to playing on ball in this type of situation where he's still, I think, learning, Spencer, to play off the ball. And I think we've seen that where his best spurts in the first 3 games were when Craig Porter Jr. was out and he could sort of act as the de facto point guard, if you will. And that was really his entire role tonight. And I think that's part of the reason why he looked so comfortable. He looked the best that he has. I'm glad you brought up the pace aspect of it, because it's something we touched upon in yesterday's show with Craig Porter Jr., where, you know, he can play slow and he can play fast. Jaylon Tyson, I feel like, can do the same thing. Now, I don't expect him to go out and be an NBA point guard. Like, I think his role is not going to be exactly what it was tonight when he's in the NBA. But I think it's a really great thing for his development and for fighting for minutes in the NBA that he can do all the things that he can do tonight, that he showed he could do tonight. I think that's a very important thing.
And the thing is, too, with being a 1 and trying to facilitate an offense, a lot of straight line drives tonight. A lot of straight going into bodies, like you said, getting to the charity stripe. When he's off ball, it's going to be a lot more cutting from the corners. It's going to be some more of those diagonal drives that he's going to have to learn how to kind of find a rhythm in that aspect. So it will be different. His role will be different. You're not going to see, you know, this type of control over the ball, this type of usage that he's had at Summer League. But what you can see are the characteristics and the traits that can translate. And that has to be awesome for the Cavs to see in the front office, knowing the pick that they made and seeing some of those chops when he was at Texas Tech off ball obviously gave them a little bit of a good idea.
Right. And the other thing that I think he brings to the table that he showed tonight, he had 11 rebounds tonight. What does, if you had to pick a gripe with the Cavs roster, it's not a perfect roster. They're very thin on the wing, and I think one of the things that has harmed them over the last couple of years is they haven't had a guy on the wing that's a good rebounder. You look at Isaac Okoro, who's been playing sort of an undersized small forward. I think he's best suited as a 2. Max Strus, sort of in the same vein. I think he rebounds better than Okoro does. But Jaylon Tyson, I think, can rebound. I think, and that's one of the things he mentioned he learned while at Texas Tech as a sophomore, because he said he wanted to average 10 points a game as a sophomore at Texas Tech. And he thought an easy way to do that was go find yourself 2 offensive rebounds, because that could be 4 easy points. He only had 1 offensive rebound in the game against the Lakers on Thursday night. But the fact that he was going after the ball on the defensive glass, I think, is something the Cavs really need. And that could be a way he finds himself into the rotation for Cleveland.
Possession game.
Yeah.
Possession game.
Yeah, you're right.
Secure more possessions. Give yourself a better chance to get good looks. Give yourself more opportunities to score. And I feel like we just talked about this yesterday, but Jaylon channeling that into this evening.
Yeah, and I think that is a very important thing. And, you know, you talk about it with him diving on the floor. You talk about it with him rebounding.
That's the stuff that stands out the most to me. He's
right.
Always on the floor. You can see, we're talking to him after the game, he's got scratches, he's got bumps and bruises.
He's got an ice bag on his knee.
Yep, exactly. And that's how you can tell that this guy's giving it his all in this environment, which you have to make a good first impression on the organization, of course. But I feel like that's just not for show. That's who he is.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to say, particularly with his performance tonight, that Jaylon Tyson has made a good first impression on the Cavs. What his career is going to look like, obviously, we don't know right now, but I think there's one thing that's going to determine whether he's really good in the NBA or if he's just good in the NBA. That's his shooting. We're going to talk about that next right here on Locked On Cavs. Today's show brought to you by FanDuel. I love sports. You love sports. If you're watching this, of course you love sports. And you don't want sports to go away. But we are not in the most sports-filled period of the calendar right now. But baseball is about to start back up. The WNBA going to take a little bit of a break for the Olympics, so it's not going to be all that great. But you will be able to have the Olympics to watch, and you'll have the Olympics to bet on, because FanDuel, they will let you keep the sports going whenever you want them to. All you have to do, open up their app and dream up any bets whenever you're in the mood to make it happen. This summer, too, and this is very important here, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. I've been telling you about baseball, about how much I love the Cleveland Guardians to win their first World Series since 1948 and what their odds have been. You can bet on the Open Championship that's going on. I know that's certainly something I'm going to do as soon as cuts are made. I missed out on getting it done before the tournament started, just with the time change here and the fact that tournament is 9 hours ahead of where I'm at right now. It was a little, I slept through it a little bit. But once cuts are made and we go into the weekend overseas, that's definitely something that I'm going to be looking at. Maybe Scotty Scheffler can get it done. Maybe Xander Schauffele. He had a great first round. We'll see what happens as that weekend goes on. But again, FanDuel's hooking up all customers a booster bonus daily, something for everyone, every day, all summer long. Go to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. So, Spencer, for me, I think that Jaylon Tyson does enough things well that I'm confident he's going to be a good basketball player in the NBA. I think I'm not going to say he's going to be some star player or an all-star or anything like that, but I think that there's a place for him in this league. I think that I've learned that from my time in Vegas here watching him. And if you disagree, please feel free to tell me. But I think the thing that's going to determine just how good he is going to be how that shot looks, how that shot falls from the outside. He was 1 of 3 tonight against the Lakers, but that's going to be the thing for me, that if he can be a 37% shooter from outside, and that's where I would probably draw that line. Like, if he's better, that's great, obviously. If he's worse, that's where it might limit his ceiling a little bit. But I think if he can be that sort of shooter from the outside, he's going to be really good in the league.
Yeah, and I think with him, I asked him about the jump shot. He said, I don't know where all this noise is coming from.
It's coming from us.
I can shoot the piss out of the ball. That was, quote, word for word.
Yeah.
I still think that the mechanics just need to be a little bit better, maybe a little bit of more quick release. It's a little bit, to use his words, robotic, but I think it can be done. I think that the development crew that they're going to have on this staff with Kenny Atkinson and all the other staff members that they brought on, Johnny Bryant, as we know, has been huge with Donovan Mitchell's career. Jordan Ott seems to really be on top of things. Like, these are good things for him to come into this environment that, one, is a winning environment, and 2, knows how to develop players. So that's, I think, going to be the primary focus for him, because his role, again, is not going to be lead point guard. This is what Summer League kind of sways opinions a lot as far as the outside world goes, because they see someone do well at Summer League and they say, oh, okay, then this is what he's going to do in the real.
The roles are so much different.
The roles are so much different.
To be fair here, when we spoke with Jordan Ott before the team flew out to Vegas, he talked about that. He talked about how guys are going to be in roles when they're in Vegas on this specific team that is not in the role with the Cavs. It's not the role with the Charge. It's different, and it's suited for this specific team. And I do think this role for Jaylon Tyson, while it could be something he could be in one day, like if his career hits its ceiling, he can absolutely have games like this in the NBA. He can be in this role in the NBA.
Don't put him in a box.
Right. Yeah. Don't do that. But that's not what his role is going to be in the 24-25 season. That's not what it's going to be in the 25-26 season. This is what he could look like down the road. I think that is a sort of a disclaimer we have to put on this as we talk about him.
Yeah, you have to, because you have way too many guards on the roster right now.
Yes.
Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, Karis LeVert. You can even go to Ty Jerome if you want to. Craig Porter Jr. Think about how deep
It's a long list.
Loaded that guard room is. It's hard to get minutes that way. So what's it going to be? He's probably going to play up more. He's probably going to play some of the 3. He's probably going to play some minutes at the 2.
I think he's big enough to do that. I think he is big enough to play and survive in the NBA playing the small forward spot. I think he's strong enough. I wouldn't be confident in him being able to play any 4.
Yeah.
And luckily, the Cavs also have a lot of guys
Josh
that
Hart
can
and
play the 4
Caleb Martin
and 5.
played the 4.
Right. That's very true.
Yeah.
And maybe he's a taller Josh Hart, and I think that'd be a great outcome for his career. But coming away from what we've seen so far, I think it's hard not to be impressed.
It is. He's done a great job. He's got a great head on his shoulders. And I mentioned this too. It's funny because the Cavs in their past in the first rounds have drafted guys that were really, really good guys, but they just weren't very talkative. Right. This guy is a personality and a half. He just loves the game. He treats us with great respect already, and he likes to have a little fun, as we saw, obviously. What
are you talking about there,
Spencer? Are we going to harken back to, a few weeks ago?
So at Jaylon Tyson's introductory press conference, this was the day after the NBA draft, so this was back in June, Spencer here asked him a question about Tyson's relationship with former NBA player Al Harrington, and Tyson knows Harrington very well. I'm sure Spencer can give you more of the background between those two, but Tyson answered the question pretending like he didn't know who Al Harrington was. And Spencer's face got as red as I've ever seen anyone's face. He was incredibly embarrassed. And Jaylon Tyson got all of us to laugh at Spencer Davies. And it was a great moment for everyone except for Spencer.
This is true.
So he does have that personality. And that it is something I think has been on display. It's been refreshing. And I think he is someone, I think he gets it. And you can't say that about everyone, and partially because maybe it's because he's coming into the league a few years older than I think we're used to rookies coming into the league now. Like he's not Dalton Knecht, who I think is 24, but he's also not Bronny James, who's 19. Like Correct. He's coming in with a little bit more seasoning, a little bit more experience. And I think that is, he's a little bit more willing. And, he's older than the guys the Cavs have drafted in recent years, too, with the exception, I suppose, of Ochai Agbaji, who is here for like 3 weeks.
3 weeks might be a little bit too long, honestly, if we want to talk about that. But honestly, when I think about it, I think the trials and tribulations he went through in college might have helped this as well, as far as the maturity goes. You start at Texas, things don't go the way that you think they're going to go. You go to Texas Tech. Obviously, bad situation happens there. He gets out and goes to Cal, plays for Mark Madsen, and makes a big-time impact there, gets the ball in his hands, and he's playing with guys that aren't on the same level of talent as him, and comes out and looks like an absolute star, elevating their games while also putting himself in the spotlight and in the position to be picked at 20.
Right, so he's 21 years old right now, and I'm not going to say it feels like he's 21 or it feels like he's a certain age, but it doesn't feel like he's 19. It feels like he gets it. It feels like he understands. And physically, he is much more ready to play in the NBA right now as a 21-year-old than most 19-year-olds are.
But don't forget,
that's very important.
Don't forget he's 6'5" without shoes, though.
Yeah, that height really does matter. I will say, I want to talk about that because, one, it's ridiculous, but two, because of that, I spend my time when he's on the floor seeing how tall he is in comparison with other guys. You and I sat next to each other, and at Summer League, it's great. Like if you cover the team that is playing, you get to sit courtside. So Spencer and I sat right on the baseline on the side of the Lakers bench tonight. So there would be times when during the game we would talk to each other, be like, oh, how does Jaylon Tyson's height look like compared to Zaire Smith or Lou Travers or Bronny James? Like that's what the conversation becomes, and it drives me nuts that I have to look at that.
Yeah, it's the fan discourse. That's all I got. That's all I got.
Got to be mad about something. Well, other guys other than Jaylon Tyson played for the Cavs tonight against the Lakers. We're going to talk about Pete Nance. We're going to talk about Luke Travers. We're going to talk about the rest of the Summer League standouts straight ahead right here on Locked On Cavs. Thank you again for making Locked On Cavs your first listen every day. You can find this show on YouTube. Search Locked On Cavs. Make sure you like this video. Click that notification bell. Subscribe to the Locked On Cavs channel. If you're listening via podcast, whatever app you use, please give us a 5-star review. Make sure you leave some kind words as well. So we talked a ton about Jaylon Tyson. Pete Nance, I thought, had a relatively good game tonight as well. He had a couple of big shots down the stretch after not really being able to. He couldn't get the ball to go in the basket for much of the night, and he talked about that after the game, that the shots he was taking, they felt good leaving the hand. He thought they were in. They just didn't drop. What were your impressions of him?
Well, I was talking to you about this the whole game. I'm like, he's having a good one. He's doing well on defense. He's contesting shots really nicely, setting screens really good on the timing with the dribble handoffs and ball screens. He just couldn't finish. He couldn't finish at the rim, and the threes, he was getting great looks all night. They just were not dropping. So I honestly I felt bad because he was playing a good game.
Right.
It's not like he was getting torched or anything down there. Maybe he could do better on the glass sometimes, but I mean that's where Jaylon Tyson comes in and grabbing all of them.
I mean, it helps, but you would, and Nance not the biggest guy, obviously, playing
6'9",
but he's
6'10".
playing center at 6'9", 6'10". I'd like to see him have more than 2 rebounds.
I would too.
I think that's a very fair critique of his night. And
yeah,
I'm not sure that Pete Nance is an NBA player. I think he's a fine guy to have on a two-way, but I'm not sure he's ever going to be like a standard contract NBA guy. I've got questions about his hands. Like there were some times during the game tonight where Jaylon Tyson or somebody else would find him and he just can't quite corral the pass. And I think there have been a number of instances like that during his summer league, and that's just one of those things. If he were like 10% better there, I'd feel so much better about him as a prospect.
And this is where development comes in too, because that's the stuff he can work on in the G League, and then ultimately prove us wrong, right? Like
I mean, I'm just like on a personal level. I don't want to speak for you. Like, I'm rooting for these guys to all be successful,
Absolutely.
whether it's with the Cavs, whether it's with somebody else. Like, one of the things that I think is cool about Summer League is you are watching guys play with a desperation. Most of the guys, not everybody. Like,
sometimes
first round
float.
picks for the most part aren't playing for their career here. But a lot of guys are playing not just for a spot with the Cavs or a spot with the Charge. They're playing to keep their basketball career going, whether that's in Europe, in the G League elsewhere with a different organization. So it is cool to see that. And I want all of these guys to play well enough to earn opportunities to be successful.
And that was part of the environment that we were part of, man.
Right.
That was an insane game. I tweeted this out. I've not felt goosebumps watching a Summer League game before. And
I looked down at your arm to see if your hair was standing up.
Yeah.
It wasn't. You liar.
No lies. But it was so cool. There were a number of moments where Bronny James would hit a big shot, or you could hear the anticipation when Emoni put a 3 up, or and we got to hit this.
Right.
DJ Burns got every chant in the book during this game, and unfortunately Jordan Knott did not oblige, but it was a very fun moment, and you saw he cracked a smile on the bench when it was happening. But you don't get that much, at Summer League because there's so many games. A lot of people can be kind of fatigued and tired out.
And not just in Summer League. We are over a week into Summer League.
Yeah, this is nearing
moments
the end.
And I did think that the environment inside the Thomas and Mack Center tonight was really, really cool. If you see an environment like this, it's normally that first night or the first Saturday night. It's not the second Thursday.
Yeah,
it's not this deep in it. So that I did think was really cool. As far as the DJ Burns stuff goes, I'm not sure this arena could have handled having Bronny James and DJ Burns on the floor at the same time. So that might have just been a move for humanity, so the arena didn't combust with two stars of their caliber playing against each other in the Summer League game.
They got slick pops, man. They got some real pops out there in the crowd.
Yeah, they absolutely did. Other guy I wanted to talk about before we get out of here, Luke Travers. Wasn't overly impressed with him. I don't think he's had this Summer League that certainly I expected him to have. Yeah. I thought he looked good in the first game that he played. Keep in mind, he missed game 1 against Orlando. I believe it was a hamstring injury that kept him out. Yeah. He's played in the last 3. I thought he looked good against Milwaukee, but the last 2 games, I've come away wanting to see a little bit more than we've seen from him.
Same. And so he starts out the game attack mode.
Right.
Scores 6 points off rip. I think he had a dunk in there.
Yeah.
Putting it on the floor, really going for it. Did he take a 3 tonight? Did he take 1 or 2 maybe at most?
He took 2 3-pointers tonight. He finished the night, like, his stats aren't bad.
No.
He finished 3 of 5, so he was relatively efficient, hit both his free throws, had 3 rebounds, a couple assists, a couple steals, a couple blocks.
He does a little bit of everything. Like
he did a little bit of everything.
But it's just on too small of a scale.
I wanted to see him do a little bit more of everything.
Right,
like, it's
exactly.
not that he was bad. It's that I thought we would see a little bit more. Like, I thought that this summer league, and I felt this way after the first game he played, I thought this summer league was going to be his case to be on the Cavs roster, or at the very least on a 2-way deal with Cleveland next year. And I'm not sure that he's made that case.
Yeah, neither am I. I think, he's got to be a little bit more assertive or
aggressive. He needs to be more aggressive.
Sense of urgency if he wants to be in the NBA as quick as he wants to, because that's what he told us at practice last week, was that ASAP. So that's when he wants to be in the league. He's really motivated because certain guys haven't gotten to the league from being picked to where he was and where he came from. There's a big list. Like, it was a really nice video, like he was talking about. But I think Luke can do it. I just don't know if it's right now, especially after these last couple games. That you don't want to see someone of that caliber that the organization wants to see step up to the next level not get there. And I think that he's just not quite there yet.
Well, and one of the things that sucks about this is that he's got 5 games to make his case. Like, it is in the big scheme of things, that's a small sample size.
It is.
It's a very small sample size to say, hey, I belong in the NBA, or hey, we'll see you next year in Vegas again. Like that, it's a small sample size, and I do feel bad about that. But he's got one more game, and maybe against the Pacers on Saturday, he looks much better. But I've come away from watching him wanting a little bit more.
I'm sure we got to touch on Emoni, right?
We do. Emoni Bates, the last guy we have to talk about, finished tonight against the Lakers. He had 14 points, had 4 assists, 1 rebound, finished the night, Spencer, 4 of 18 from the field, 3 of 12 from deep. There are times where I think he looks really good. I think that his jump shot is good. Like, there are not many shots that, when taken in the correct flow of the game, I'm uncomfortable with him taking. Like, I think, and he took 12 threes tonight. He was 3 of 12 from beyond the arc. I didn't think that many of those were bad looks, but I do think, Jordan Ott last night after the game talked about Emoni Bates' decision-making not necessarily being what they wanted it to be. I thought it was better tonight. You can almost kind of chalk this up to the ball just didn't go in the basket.
Yeah.
In some instances. Not saying that it was great and that you should forget about this, but I think that was part of it. 2
of the last 3 looks that he had to put the Cavs ahead or to tie at the end of this game, because it was a back-and-forth affair at the end. It was an amazing game. They just were rattling in and out.
Yeah.
Maybe the one that was in between them was a little fast on the trigger, but I think with Emoni, he was better tonight not getting in that in-between area where he's dribbling 7-8 times. Yeah. I think he did do better at putting it on the floor, going to that floater. I know you hated one of his dribble pull-ups because it was a little inside the arc, the Jerry Jack special.
Like, I mean, at that point, just take the 3. Like, I'm fine with him shooting there.
Yeah.
I'm just not fine with him shooting from 21 feet instead of 25 feet.
Yeah.
Like, I'd rather just, if you're going to take that shot, and it wasn't even a mid-range, it was a deep mid-range, don't take it there.
Yeah.
Like, that was one of the shots that I had the biggest issue with. Because
analytics.
Take the extra point. It's 2 more feet, and it's not as if that's out of his range.
No, 100%.
It's not like his range stops at 20 feet.
Yeah. I still remain very impressed by his playmaking ability, though.
Yeah.
He makes some really nice passes with his left hand. That's something that I kind of noticed over the last couple of games. Like, if he's putting it on the floor, he's got the shovel going.
Right.
Like, he's got the shovel, and he's got a lot of strength on a lot of these passes. Like, he doesn't throw lazy passes. He might throw a bad pass, or he might throw an over-aggressive pass, like jumping out, like he did that tonight. Put it on the floor, jumped, looked back, and threw it over, and it was a backcourt violation.
Right.
But aggressive turnovers are okay. Dumb turnovers are not.
Correct.
So, I think that's something that Cavs fans should be a little bit optimistic about is his playmaking ability, because once he gets the other guys going, that's when he gets his own game going, and that's when he starts seeing the ball go through, and that's I think got to be the primary focus. But we do got to touch on the defense tonight.
Yeah. It was not Emoni Bates' best defensive game that I've seen him play. There are moments where, he can come up with steals, and he had a couple of flashes. He had a nice steal tonight.
Big deflection in a big moment in the fourth.
But there were too many times where he got back cut. There's the play that I'm sure you've seen by now. Bronny James hit a mid-range jumper after he created quite a bit of separations on Emoni Bates.
Call it what it was. It was a crossover, and he left him in the dust.
Yeah, and he got back cut a couple of times, and it's just that I don't know if it's a lack of attention to detail or a lack of awareness or a lack of effort, but I thought that was the biggest issue with what he had tonight. I thought was on the defensive end.
I don't think it's effort. I think it's just learning your spots when you're off. You're not guarding the ball handler. You got to know your spots on the floor. Got caught napping kind of with his back towards the baseline, like you said, with the back cuts. There were also a number of moments where he just got flat out overpowered, and that goes back to the frame. We know he put on 26 pounds, but there's still a little bit more body maturing that needs to be done there. But I think, again, we went into this knowing that Emoni's probably not going to be a big part of the roster. Like he this season, he's going to get there because this kid loves basketball. He knows what's important, and he knows how to kind of handle the game, but it's not there yet. And again, he's so young too. He's still so young, and it's probably going to take another year or two to get him to that level. So that's important to understand too as Cavs fans. And I think those that were begging for him to come into the games might come away after watching the Summer League saying, okay, maybe he does need to work on some more, and maybe he needs a little bit more seasoning as far as experience goes.
So I think one thing that's worth noting here, Emoni Bates is younger than Jaylon Tyson. Like, that is something that when you have to keep some perspective, and I think that is something that can absolutely help you keep it with this situation. Like, I think he is still a year away. This time next year, we might feel differently about him. If he's playing in a third summer league and looks great, I think there's a lot of reason to feel really good about him. Like, I wouldn't sell your stock on Emoni Bates. And last thing, we talked last night about if he can be J.R. Smith. J.R. Smith had a lot of games like this. Like this,
this is nothing. And honestly, you say he's 3 of 12 from 3. He took those last 3 in 90 seconds.
Yeah,
he was really,
like, this was a J.R. Smith game. J.R. Smith had some really good games. J.R. Smith had some really not so good games.
What did I use yesterday? Didn't I say like he could go 7 of 11 from 3, or he could go 2 of 11 from 3? I was kind of close.
Yeah, I mean that's what it is. And that's what his future might be.
Yeah.
But Spencer, thank you for doing this. This was a blast. This is our last one from Vegas. I will be back next week. The Cavs have one more summer league game. I will talk about that. Plus a lot of the stuff that I've heard from around the league that pertains to the Cavs from Vegas. That'll be on Monday's Locked On Cavs. So keep it here. Again, thank you for making Locked On Cavs your first listen every day. Find the show wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you are subscribed. If you're watching this on YouTube, click that notification bell, click that thumbs up button, subscribe to the Locked On Cavs podcast channel, and I will see you on Monday talking more about the Cavaliers as being your first listen every day.